What is up? Let's do this. This is round 2 for the day. I have Adam for real this time. He's going to be joining me in just a second. Thanks again for coming in. We're going to have a good stream. If you want to ask us any questions, do the QQQ. You know what to do in front of your question, and we'll get to all of them as I see them, okay? All right, let's bring him over, and we'll have a good time. Welcome, Adam.
Hey, everybody.
All
Sorry,
right.
I was definitely asleep. I had set my alarm multiple times, and then I ended up reading something on Reddit or something like that, and the pillow covered the phone. So whenever I got all those alarms, it was just the muffled, the muffled sounds. I just completely missed all of them.
No worries. Like I even told you, I was like, it's not a big deal to me. Like I just sat and talked with people. Um, you know, I'm
Yeah.
surprised. I mean, if I didn't have to get up early on Saturdays anyway and Sundays, I'd oversleep too. I'm surprised I haven't overslept on one of these, but Chandra won't let me sleep. She makes me get up.
Fair enough, man. Yeah, usually throughout the week, I'm usually awake by like 8. And then on the weekends, it's usually like 9:30. But luckily, that's without an alarm. But yeah, today just was wonky. So what can you do? But I'm here now for lunch. I guess it's 11. So some people are having lunch.
I haven't eaten yet. I'm probably gonna eat after this, but I just kind of want to jump in with this, and I kind of know that uh not everybody that comes in here may know who you are. So what I'd like to do is if we can kind of get a high level kind of recount of kind of where you've come from and get us kind of to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So the Keto Couch Potato used to be Keto Couch Potatoes. There was two. We did a channel on YouTube back in like 2014 or so, I believe that's whenever we started. Lost a bunch of weight doing a ketogenic diet, made a bunch of videos about all of that, and then fell out of it. And then tried again, and then fell out of it again, and then several years later, my ex-wife and I got divorced, and then I went through like a bunch of major life changes all at once. And now, within the past probably 8 months at this point, I started back on keto, started the channel again, started making new content and videos semi regularly, and I am back and doing this again, but right this time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I remember finding you when I first started in like 2016. So you guys already had, or were established, doing a lot of good stuff. And I would watch a lot. I watched a lot of your videos back then, and then I joined your Facebook group that you had, and then when you guys went through all your stuff, and then you were kind of back for a minute, and then you were gone for a while, and then I just kind of kept touching base with you, trying to hopefully keep you from straying too far away.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, with depression and life changes and all that different kind of stuff, you do have an excuse for yourself, if that makes sense. Like you tell yourself, oh, like I'm sad, to put it lightly, and then you just don't care anymore about like yourself or what you eat, because at that point it's more about I'm going to make myself happy any way that I can, which for me historically throughout my entire life has been let's eat an entire pizza followed by an entire dozen of donuts, or whatever the case might be, because food equals comfort for so many people, myself included.
Oh,
um,
100%. I
yeah,
was
I
on a
mean,
stream last
you
night with a former fat girl, and we were talking about that very thing, just how food is so completely linked with every facet of emotions for anybody who is like has a food addiction. It's really like it's an emotional crutch, and which in some ways you can think that it's better than being attached to drugs and alcohol, but it's a slow burn, I guess, but still something we have to deal with.
Yeah, I've talked to people about that before, and as far as drugs and alcohol goes, food is a much more visual addiction. You can see somebody on the street and like they might be smoking crack and you wouldn't even know it. But food, if you are addicted to sugar, addicted to food, eventually that's gonna bite you back, and everybody sees it. They see the fat guy and they know like you eat a lot of food because it's not physically possible to not eat food and still be fat.
Right.
So your sickness or vice is on display for everybody at all times. I think that's a lot of the reason that people that are larger tend to avoid getting photos taken of themselves. Like I had a photo taken of me just the other day in a Santa sleigh because I was doing something for work, and I still look at myself and I'm just like, you are a fat guy compared to even Santa. And it makes me feel bad naturally because I'm just like, man, I've been working really hard. I've lost 86 pounds so far this go around, and I still see myself as like this really fat guy when I'm still fat, but less fat than I was. Um, if that makes sense.
Well, 100% because that never goes away. Even when I got to my thinnest and I think I got down to 273 and I would have to go and make like like a collage photo with like the before me and the now me just for me to have that reference because I would still see myself and go, "Ugh," like you still see your belly poking through your shirt or whatever. And obviously, there's that mental disconnect because obviously, 273 pounds versus over 420 pounds, there's going to be a striking visual difference, but we don't always see it.
Right. Whenever you see yourself every day, you
Hmm.
don't see those changes. But, if I go back and look at myself, a year ago, I know that I was bigger then. But even now, there's still such a long way to go. It's one of those things where I just sit there and I go, man, still big. Like, you know, tangenically, I guess that might be the wrong word, but yeah, it's still a matter of like comparing myself to other people more so than myself. So like in those photos or whatever, you see yourself and then you see somebody skinny next to you and it makes you look even bigger by comparison, and then that just sets you on like a bad mind track. Um, Not sure what relevance it has to what we were originally talking about because I am very much a tangent person. But yeah, um, yeah. What were we talking about?
Just that food addiction. I want to say what's up to Arden is here. Find my mouse. Arden is here. Uncle Big Guy, welcome. Thank you for coming for round two. And we got Das Wolfen is here, and Brenda is here. And Das Wolfen says, "I am down to 200, down in the 240s. I still have trouble seeing the difference without some reference photos from when I was a lot bigger." That's that's gonna be the thing. Like you have to do that. You have to have that comparison. Which, unfortunately, just like what Adam said, is for me, I was always the guy in the back of the photos. I mean, I'm also taller than people too, to a degree. I mean, I'm 6 foot, whatever. But so you're almost always kind of shuffled to the back anyway. But then also, I didn't want to have my picture taken. I always would feel disgusted looking at myself. And so not having a ton of before photos, then it made me self-conscious posting like the same before photo with the now photo. It's like a never-ending cycle. And then something else you touched on is like with that visual nature of food addiction where everybody can see you eating, they know what you're doing, and then that kind of leads you to doing it by yourself, like eating in your car, eating in like your bedroom, eating at home alone, watching TV, not wanting to really go out with friends or like as far as food is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you really self conscious about eating around other people because you think that people are going to be judging you naturally. So your mindset goes like, "Oh, I should order this smaller plate instead of the thing that the back of your mind, the gremlin brain that wants to eat all that food, might want the, two entrees or whatever the case might be. But I think in that aspect, socially committing yourself to only eating socially is not necessarily a bad route to go. I mean, there for the first couple months of going back to the YouTube thing, I did the food diary shorts because shorts are kind of the way to that YouTube works now. But also because like that was a way to keep myself accountable to everybody else, because like if you see everything that's going in my mouth, then I'm gonna feel bad if I eat something else. Which probably it also isn't the healthiest way to go about trying to lose weight. I ended up falling out of that just because I was literally eating the same thing every day, and I'm still eating literally the same thing every day. So in terms of being boring, I didn't want to be boring, but also be accounted for at the same time. So it's kind of a hard balance to figure out.
Oh, 100%. Like, I mean, on a typical day to day, I eat the same thing,
It's
I
very
mean,
boring. Dieting is very boring whenever it comes down to it.
at
You
least
can be creative with it, and that's what a lot of people end up doing. And that's also how like the carb creep starts setting in, because you're like, man, I need something to flavor it up. And then you find like, here's a fake sugar to make a fake cookie with. And then you're like, well, I'm gonna eat more fake cookies because it's healthier. And then you fall into that trap. So dieting is a very complex thing, and it's like everybody says, it's a lifestyle change, but it's also a marathon and not a sprint, all these generic terms that everybody uses. So making those mistakes and then coming back from it is the most important part, because everybody's going to make mistakes. Lord knows I've made enough. So
I mean, we
yeah.
made mistakes this week, just me and Chandra, like I mean, we've got Christmas Eve coming up tomorrow, and Christmas Eve dinner is going. We're gonna order pizzas from Costco, so obviously not keto, but nobody really in our family that's coming over. Our kids aren't keto, but it's easier for us to just go ahead and cook or order the pizzas, go pick them up, have them. I don't have to do dishes, clean up, and then I can send all the leftovers home with them, so that I'm not getting up at 2 in the morning and eating cold pizza or whatever it
And
is.
that's the smarter way to go about that. Get it
Yeah,
out of the house.
and then the next day we're gonna have them back over for Christmas Day after they do their Santa stuff at the house. I'm gonna make chaffle breakfast sandwiches, and Shander's gonna make crepes because again they're still not keto and it's Christmas, so I'm gonna try to be a little more accountable. And then but coming up this week, knowing that we're gonna have that pizza, then it's like it's easier to justify bringing something home from the grocery store that's not on plan, and we fell
Right.
victim to that. But it's a continual learning process, a continual learning curve, understanding yourselves and knowing when to say no and knowing when to say yes too. I
Yeah, I mean,
mean,
it's such an easy hole to fall into, because like taking the week off for Thanksgiving or whatever, you're gonna have that Thanksgiving meal, and then that turns into like a weekend, and then that turns into like the rest of the next week, because you've already set yourself up for failure by breaking the cycle or whatever to begin with. But as far as that type of thing goes, it's important to have that accountability with somebody else, to be like, hey, check in on me after like a week, to just be like, hey, aren't you supposed to be doing this? Because then that kind of snaps your brain out of the, oh yeah, like I am supposed to be doing this. Like what am I doing? Because that it's I've fallen victim to it several times at this point. As far as like, the first time around, Megan and I, whenever we were doing keto, we did very well with it, and then we went on a vacation to Seattle. We hung out with friends there, and they weren't keto. They weren't obligated to eat keto, and that makes it even harder, because then you're like, well, they want to take us to all these restaurants and do all this stuff, and like, we can't really eat anything here without making a lot of changes to the standard menu, and then that kind of defeats the purpose of you showing me what you like. Um, so then falling out of it, eating, and it's like, okay, we're just going to do this for a week. And then that week turned into 2 weeks, a month, 6 months. And then people start to notice, because they're like, isn't he getting bigger again? And then you just start to see the comments in YouTube, and then you got to address it and be like, yeah, I've let some carbs slip in, and then you just kind of get like to a point where you don't want to hear it anymore. I mean, it's an addiction, man. It's the same thing that every addict goes through. Like, you have a problem, and other people recognize that you have a problem. And then if they call you out on that problem, you're going to go one of two ways. You're either going to be like, yeah, you're right. Let's do something about it. Or the other side of denial and being like, no, screw you. Like, I don't have a problem. I just like Happy Meals. And then there you go.
Oh, 100%. Let's see. We've got let's see. Brenda was saying that she had calorie reduction, stayed under 1,000 calories a day for years and progressively gained and gained. Yeah, that's the thing is, if but that's that dichotomy of, do calories matter? Do calories not matter? I think there is validity to calories, but I think calories go hand in hand with the type of foods that you're eating. Not all calories are the same, I don't believe, because it's not as simple as what they say is it's all thermodynamics. Well, if thermodynamics was really the way, we've been eating the same calories as far as studies show for the last 60, 70 years, but yet we continually get fatter. So I think if calories were the end all be all, then we would probably not have the issues that we're having. And you can't really say it's empty calories, it's this, that, the other. I think it just comes from the processed foods where we've strayed away from whole foods, single ingredient foods. Even like, as you can say, like butter is two ingredients because it's sweet cream and salt, or there's beef, chicken, pork, broccoli, like that's the one thing, like when it comes to people who get upset and say, keto or whatever we're doing is dangerous. It's like, I do you understand? But, you know,
It's
um,
all complicated, man. Because
yeah.
like, as far as calories go, you're dealing with a whole host of things that you have no control over. Like the government sets that number. So like an Oreo might be 200. I haven't looked at an Oreo calorie count, but let's say a calorie or an Oreo is 200 calories. It could be 200 calories, but according to like the FDA or whatever, there's like at least there's a 30 to 40% window where that calorie count could be different. So that Oreo could be like 260 calories, and you don't know because you're going off what it says. But ultimately, it comes down to, like you said, thermodynamics, and every human being, eh, treat it like an engine. Some engines might burn hotter than others, and that is something that's it's going to burn through that 270 a lot easier than somebody whose engine runs very cold, like a diesel engine or something like that. So like, as far as that goes, there's that side of things, but then you also have to look at, like chicken or broccoli, like you said, where was that broccoli grown? Has that soil been nutritiously enhanced, or has it been used so many times that there is no nutrients in that fuel for the broccoli? What has that chicken been fed? Because there's been those times where I've gone to Kroger or a grocery store in town and I've picked up chicken and it tastes like fish, like straight up like fish. And it's because the farms that have sold you that chicken feed their fish or feed their chicken fish bone meal as part of their diet. So then that chicken starts to taste different. And then at that point, you have to wonder, like, well, what other nutritional changes are being made to this other than taste? So y- everything that everybody knows about dieting and nutrition is just like your opinion, man.
Well, that's the thing. Like, so I mean, even with the thermodynamic things, like I don't even think that's totally fully accurate either. I don't think. I mean, we're not a Bunsen burner. And then the thing is humans have amnesia. Like we gain knowledge, we lose knowledge, we gain knowledge, we lose knowledge. Like it's like how our grandparents ate versus how our great grandparents, our grandparents, our parents, us, how we feed our kids. That's 5 generations or whatever, and then you
Mhm.
look at how that shifted. Like, and even like how my great grandmother would eat when she was young versus how she was eating when she passed away when she got old, like, she grew up and everything was meat based and lard and they were cooking in bacon grease. She only got candy on Christmas. She'd get an orange and an apple on Christmas. And then it was when I was a kid hanging around my great grandmother, she was eating like the low calorie bread, and she was taking the whey off her curds from her cottage cheese. She would strain it in the sink, and then she was eating fake butter and all like that. Totally shifted from her lifetime very drastically. So, like,
Mhm.
not only did the technology she grew up with shift and change over her lifetime, the diet did too. So, I mean, that's obviously going to be a major factor in things. And you tell me that our ancestors were dying of diseases that we're dying of now. They probably, I mean, they died of other diseases because of like sanitary issues and whatnot. But I don't, I don't think they had the same issues that we have now. But um, and they probably
Our
didn't have the eating disorders that we have either.
Right. Our issues are kind of like a perfect storm of things that have happened over the past 50 to 60 years. You factor in, the food changing. It's become much more of a manufactured situation. Ever since the TV dinner came into existence, everything's changed as far as what we consume. And then fast food restaurants came into the picture, and then it was basically game over. But you also have the fact that nowadays it's not like it was in the 50s and 60s, where there was one person in the household that worked and went and did like their factory job or whatever the case may be, while the other person took care of like the family and the cooking and making sure that a home cooked meal was there every day and stuff like that. Whereas now, with the economy the way it is, I know it's not that kind of channel, but the way the economy is, like you have both parents working full time jobs. The kids are in school full time. Like there's no time to sit down and like cook a proper meal and do all that. But then you also have to factor in that a lot of those jobs are sedentary. Like most people probably don't stand up and walk around all that much like they probably used to back then. There's so many things now that are done on computer and at a desk, compared to that factory work or farm work or stuff like that, that we just don't move as much as they did. If
Oh,
you look
I know I
at
don't.
yeah, I mean, if you look at like Japan, for example, everybody there's like no obesity problem in Japan. And that is a whole like multifold situation as well, because they've built their cities differently. Everybody walks everywhere. Their jobs promote health and have like hour-long exercises before they even get started with the day and stuff like that. They do like their morning yoga routines and whatnot. And there's also a very big like governmental stigma on weight there too. And they don't do keto. They eat rice as like their basic staple food. It's like rice and fish, sushi and stuff like that. And they have like their deep fried things, but they don't have the same problems that we do. So it's very, I wouldn't say it's unique to America, but it is unique to the Western world as far as like obesity goes. And you have to start to wonder, like, what is the actual problem? Is it the fact that we're sneaking in sugar into just about every single food that exists in the supermarket? Is it the fact that we sit down all the time? And to me, it's a combination of everything. So it is very much a perfect storm of why are we fat? It's all these reasons and not just one. And fixing one isn't going to solve it. You got to
Right.
fix all of it, which is
Yeah,
hard.
I think it is there's a because you have to look at something you touched on with the nutrition labels and the calories, and something that I had talked to Chris Bear about. He mentioned that on the back of Keto Chow, their nutrition label, they were putting like exact carb counts, and they got a pushback from the FDA saying you can't do that. You have to round a specific way. That on
Hmm.
the front of the packages now they will put two decimal points what the carb count is, what the net carb count is, and they'll say, this is 0.75 net carbs or whatever, right? Where on a normal nutrition label, they're zero carbs.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's anything less than point 0.5 can be zero. And then anything over point 0.5 is less than one or whatever, like that little less than symbol that you see on a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
And then if it is like point 0.9 or 1, then it has to be like 1. I'm not sure what the specifics are on it, but like it's very wibbly wobbly. It's even stuff like an egg says 0, but if you look at like the actual scientific breakdown, it's like 0.09 or something like that. So
You
nothing
have to eat like a
has
dozen eggs to get
0.
a couple carbs.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, nothing has zero, absolute 0, except like maybe water, and even that probably has some trace amounts of sugar from some sort of, you
because
know,
yeah, even red meat has some trace carbs in it.
yeah.
So let's see. Danny asked, "How much Dustin is too much, Dustin?" I think any Dustin is too much. And Uncle Big Guy Arlen says, "I still have those occasional times that I eat comfort snack foods, but luckily I don't go down the rabbit hole." I get mad at myself because I do the grocery shopping, I stay at home, I do the cooking. It's like basically what you were talking about, how it doesn't happen very often. Well, Chandra works. I stay home, I take care of the house, I take care of, she's home 5 days a week too. So we're home a lot together. She only has like her actual schedule is 2 days a week, but she
Mhm.
will pick up a third day usually each week because they're offering bonuses and whatnot. But I'm home. I do almost all the cooking, almost all the cleaning, the laundry. I do the YouTubes. We manage the little granddaughter together. I mean, we take naps. We do whatever we want. But so I mean, we're home. But I do since doing I ugh, since I do all the grocery shopping, I will pick and choose what I get for myself. I'll get things I know that she likes, and I'm talking on plan things for 95% of the time. I buy specific things that keep our house going, but I won't buy like snacky foods for myself because I know that I don't control myself very well. Which leads me to being at night looking for something to eat and getting mad at myself that I didn't buy anything for me to snack on. And I am the only one to blame, which is a good and a bad thing because you get upset with yourself or I'm like, why don't I buy? But like when I look at stuff to buy, like the on-plan snacks are expensive and they don't always taste that great, or they have a weird aftertaste, or I end up eating four of them anyway. So therefore it kind of defeats the purpose. And because the food addiction never really goes away, but what I have found is what foods I desire to eat a lot of is what really is the new or the bonus thing, right? So I can walk to the grocery store and I can walk past all the breads, the cakes, the candies, all that stuff. I can walk down the candy aisle, I can walk down the soda aisle, I can walk through the bakery and see all the pies and cakes and donuts and I don't it just doesn't spark my interest, but I'm like I want to go buy up like bunches of hot dogs or so like what I fill myself with has shifted and so I think that's the bonus of that to where I'm not eating Oreos every night. I'm not eating ice cream every night because, like you said, I would go and eat a humongous meal. I would have macaroni and cheese with tomato soup mixed in and have a big, huge plate of pizza rolls or corn dog nuggets or whatever, and then sit there miserable, feeling like if I moved wrong, I might pop and then go, well, time to go get my bowl of ice cream and get one of those big bowls of ice cream and then put chocolate sauce on it and then sit there and watch my TV shows.
Well, and that's the thing too. A lot of us, myself included, we were never taught what is too much. Like what does full mean? Because to me, growing up, and even now to some extent, full equals miserable. Like, I want to be so full that
Mhm.
like I feel like crap about it. Like that is full. Whereas full for a lot of people might be like a four-piece chicken nugget and like a small fry. And it's like, oh yes, I could eat more, but I am not going to because I'm satisfied. And a lot of people who are larger, satisfied is the biggest problem because like, you eat, a slice of pizza and you're not going to be satisfied until that whole pizza is gone. Because that is satisfaction. And even then, you're not really satisfied. And that comes down to like a mental thing. Like you got to figure out what is that thing going on in my head that makes me not satisfied with anything. And it might not just be food. It could be with, your job or, your relationships or any of that other stuff. But there's definitely something going on internally that you've got to figure out and then start working through that before you can even find success in any of the other things. Because so much of it does come down to like, I don't want to say mental disorders, but I mean that is basically what it is. I mean, it's depression, it's the ADHD factor for some people. I wasn't even diagnosed with ADHD until I was 31 years old. So, if I had known that growing up and been put on medications way back then, I might not even be here right now doing a ketogenic channel or anything like that. It might not have been an issue to begin with. But one of the things that I've talked about on my channel, but I haven't gone deep into, is like people with ADHD are apparently four times more likely than a regular neurotypical person to have some sort of obesity issue, because the food equals dopamine in the brain, and you have a dopamine deficiency if you have ADHD. So you're always chasing that form of stimulant. And for a lot of people, that is food. And for me, it turns out growing up, that was food. I liked sugary sodas. I would drink a 12 pack of soda every single day, like at 10 years old. Uh, one, because I was self medicating without even realizing it, because caffeine is a stimulant, and it took that much caffeine as a kid to be able to function the way that normal people function. But also the fact that like it tastes good and it make brain happy.
So
So
I have a question about that. What do you think? So, do you think that it would be a diet leading to ADHD, or is ADHD something in of itself leading to the diet? Because I wonder if you didn't have access to all of that soda and the cereal and all of that, if those symptoms of ADHD would have been present in the first place.
I think that the ADHD comes before all the other stuff, because if it wouldn't have been a like the food, it would have been something else. Like my household, I grew up with my grandparents, so like they didn't smoke, they didn't drink, they didn't do any of that stuff. So like on that side of things, none of that even registered for me. Still doesn't. Like I don't even see that as stuff to do. Like I'll drink occasionally, very rarely socially, but like I don't see those things as things. So like in a way, if we didn't have junk food in the house growing up, I it feels like it probably would be close to the same vein. But food is such a common thing and such a way that people socialize and make it part of their everyday routine. There's no way to avoid it. Um, ever. There's no way to avoid
Well, what I
food.
mean
You have
is like if you were, I mean, like if like the diet was different. So like in a sense, like if you were raised with, like, even me, like I probably had some sort of ADHD. My mom fed us. We grew up on chicken nuggets and canned uh carrots that she put sugar on. We
mm,
had, all the breakfast cereals. We had potato chips, sodas, and all that stuff. We had all of that stuff. But I wonder if we were on the diet, say like if there was a like if the we were on a diet from like the 1800s, the early 1900s, if the ADHD would have presented itself. That's my question, is like, it's like, people say that
I
obesity causes all these diseases, But
Hmm.
is it the it, but I don't think obesity causes the diseases. It's just a symptom of some of those diseases caused by the food, right?
It could go either way. I mean, it would take somebody much smarter than me to figure that one out as far as, causality versus whether it existed, prior or whatnot. I think offhand the dopamine deficiency is something that comes from like whatever circumstances that led to your birth, like the gestation period, the whole fetus thing, whatever your mom did or whatever probably leads in some form or fashion to those issues presenting themselves later in life. Now, granted, I do think that a lot of those things have become worse as time has gone because we, as like a whole ass society, I don't know if we can cuss on here or not, but like we as a whole society have made short form content and quick dopamine bursts like our thing. So in a lot of ways, the world has catered to the neurodeficiencies of the ADHD mind and whatnot. Because TikTok, for example, 30 seconds to a minute, you get your content, you eat it, your brain goes yay, and then you move on to the next one, so you can keep doing that. It's kind of the same deal with like eating M&Ms. You have one, it's like ooh yay, and then you have another one, and then before you know it, this pound bag of M&Ms is just gone and you don't even know what happened. And then it's like 5 hours later. Yeah, it's a weird situation. And I'm still learning about all of that stuff, and at the same time not using it as a crutch, like, oh, it's because of this, but like it is because of this, but at the same time, like, I have to do better and be medicated and talk to therapists and do all that stuff to maintain a sense of like purpose of this is why I'm doing this thing and this is how I'm going to get around it. Otherwise, it's very easy to fall back into that. I want whatever dopamine thing is going to hit right now.
Be- Because
Go ahead.
one thing that I found with myself and my in my eating, where I would never find I would never find satiety with the old way of eating. Like, but satiety would be I would basically be in physical pain, would
Hmm.
stop me eating. Now I have regained some of my satiety signaling with what if I'm eating burger, eggs, um, that kind of stuff, and I'm eating like heavy fat foods, then that satiety signal will hit me a lot well before that pain of my belly being so full that I can't go on. So I
Yeah,
know that is
for
something that I can it has kind of helped me. So that's where like the ketogenic lifestyle, and borderline ketovore, carnivore, depending on the day,
mhm.
has helped me regain and help my body be able to recognize that satiety signal. But it goes right out the window when I do have a slice of pizza. Then I'm going to eat the whole pizza.
Right. For me, that was the one big lie of keto. Like, not a lie per se, but like everybody always said, "Oh, you feel so full from like eating nothing." And like even the first time around when I was so successful and lost like 110 pound, 112, something like that. Um, I never one single day during that entire time had that moment where I was satisfied. And that might be the ADHD side of things because it's like you're eating the food and your stomach is full, but your brain says like, no, this isn't hitting the dopamine side of the brain. I'm not happy with this, so you're not satisfied. So that might be the difference there as far as that goes.
Because it's not something that I noticed right away. I mean, I didn't notice that probably until I was at least 2 years in. And
Yeah.
even still, like, I started to notice it, but it wasn't something that I fully comprehended till recently. So I would notice, like, if I was eating primarily meat and eggs, then I was having a lot more satiety control. Like, satiety would kick in a lot sooner, and I would be satisfied for basically doing OMAD. and I was
Hmm.
okay with that. Where if I was doing, eating more of the keto treats and such like that, satiety was harder to come by, to where my body, like
I
the signal gets mixed up, and I just want to eat and eat and eat.
Right. And I think part of that too is you don't know what the signals mean until you do. So like there for a month or so, like whenever I was still making the shorts, I did um or well, just after the shorts, I started to do the beef, bacon, egg thing that
Triple
the
B and E,
doctor, yeah,
yeah,
the doctor was that at the conference he was talking about it, and I was like,
yeah, Dr.
I'll give it a
Barry, yeah.
shot. Sounds like it would be a relatively inexpensive diet to just stick with for a month, see what happens. So I started doing that, and I found that within the first 2 weeks or so, I would make the typical amount of food that I would normally eat, and then I would eat like a quarter of it and be like, okay, I'm done. And I don't know per se if it was the fact that like I was hitting the satiety, levels, or if it was just my brain going, I'm extremely bored with this food. I don't want it. So like maybe those signals are the same thing, and it's just something that like I, as somebody who's never been satisfied in that way, don't recognize it as what it is.
Very
Um,
well could be, because we've gone so long without, understanding what our body's trying to tell us. I mean, it's when I really started, when I really kind of started noticing the true benefits of living the ketogenic lifestyle, is like when my knees stopped hurting, and I didn't have like leg pain, and just like some of the pain and the fogginess lifts, and you're just like, wait, what's this? What am I
mhm,
not? What, I don't hurt today, and I didn't take ibuprofen, and nothing's really changed. But now I feel alert, and I feel like I'm living in HD now. And I used to feel so foggy, and I would feel like I was like trudging through mud trying to live my daily life. And then it just opened up one day, and I was like, oh. And it was that day that I knew that I was never going back, because I didn't
right,
want to feel that way anymore. And like, and weight loss be damned, I don't care about the weight loss. That's just one of the things. Like, I stopped really caring about the weight loss once that hit me. And now with the satiety signals and things like that that I'm starting to learn about myself, is I do think it takes time for us to start understanding our true self and our body. And I don't think that we ever really take the time to understand ourselves. And a lot of times we're not even understanding that we're not even honest with ourselves, because I think there's a level of deceit in ourselves. So, there's like, it's almost like the two people on your shoulders, right? Yeah, get the
mm,
pizza. No, don't get the pizza. You know what I mean? Like, there, it's kind of there. And I think as long as I've been doing this, even though I've never been 100% perfect, I would say that my consistency over the last 8 years has been enough to where I'm finally able, over time, it's like little quests, and I'm picking up little things, and I'm learning little things, and I'm understanding myself better. And I understand that if I eat this way, then I'm going to have more control. And then, like, if I eat this way, it's easier to go off the rails. And then I know also doing like 3 live streams a week on my channel helps me too, because again, that thing where I'm sitting in front of the camera talking with people sitting in the chat, and I'm not the type of person that can look in the camera and know that I'm, and or be able to lie or whatever, because I'll tell you everything that I've done that week,
right.
you know.
We all know what our triggers are. Once you hit a certain age, like once you've done this for so long, we know. It's like, oh, if I eat this food, it's gonna be downhill from here. Like, because I'm not gonna be able to stop. So it's like for me, Bluebell ice cream. It's fantastic. I love it. The vanilla bean, just the best ice cream I've ever had in my life, as far as like store bought ice cream. And I know that if I ever am offered that, I'm gonna have to say no because if I do eat it, I'm gonna be like, this. cone worth or whatever is not enough. I'm gonna have to go buy this quart and eat the whole thing in like a 2 day window. And then after that, it's just like, oh well, then I've already failed, so I might as well get the other food that I miss. Like I'm gonna go to Taco Bell and I'm gonna get a Mexican pizza because there's nothing keto about that. And then your brain starts to hit that like, well, what else can I get right now while I'm still like in this window of like failure, and then
That
just
happens to us, but my ice cream of choice was always homemade brand chocolate chip cookie dough.
okay, yeah, cookie dough's great. Um, I don't know, something about the vanilla bean. Like if every ice cream had a vanilla bean base, I feel like it would be so much better. But I would also have a lot more problems not being able to, stop at the same time. So
So I got a Ninja
it's gonna.
Creamy about a couple of months ago. It was gifted to me, and
Mm,
I've been making the keto chow ice cream with it. So you make keto chow like normal, pour it in the the creamy container, and then you freeze it, then you run it through the machine. And one thing I've noticed with it, and one thing that I've noticed that's a difference with this versus regular or even store-bought keto ice cream is I'll get a few spoonfuls in, and then it doesn't even taste like anything anymore.
mhm.
Like the first few spoonfuls, they're flavorful, they're good, I'm loving it, and then like it just kind of gets I mean, I usually finish the whole pint, but it's just like the motion, but I'm not tasting
Yeah.
anything and it's very apparent.
Hmm.
And yeah, I
Could it be
mean,
that the protein's like floating to the top or whatever? Like
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure how the
I
creamies
don't
work.
know. I mean, because it mixes in really well because you got to run it through like 4 times to get like a decent ice cream consistency.
Mhm.
And so it's being mixed up really well. I imagine there's probably some floating and stuff with when it freezes and whatnot with the fats and stuff, even though it's pretty even. But I just don't know if it's like if that's another level of satiety signaling that I'm not interpreting. Like it stops tasting like anything, I should probably stop.
Right.
But but in my brain's fighting that, going, it's less than the carb.
We as people don't listen to ourselves very well.
No.
Yeah, when it comes to anything, we're very quick to dole out advice to other people about their problems and whatnot. But we're very bad at interpreting our own signals in general. Like for me, I know that full probably means a quarter of what I would usually eat if I were not, dieting and just eating whatever I want. Um, Whereas, if you have that problem, you have to actively use your brain and be like, "Hey, I don't know what my signals are, but I know what I'm supposed to be doing," and then just do that until your brain starts to realize, like, "Hey, this idiot doesn't recognize the signals. Let's turn them up," or something. Um, yeah.
Like for me, when I first started keto, the big thing was bulletproof coffee.
Hmm.
And to me, my coffee every day is this big. 30 ounces, 32 ounces, depending on which brand I have. And I was like, okay, I would see people have these little cups of coffee. They'd put a little pat of butter in there, they'd mix it up, and be, this is just what I needed. And I'm like, you are insane. That is not enough for me. I would make my big, huge cup of coffee. I was putting in half a stick of butter, 6 to 8 tablespoons of coconut oil in it every day for about 2 years,
Hmm.
which is probably like a minimum of 165 grams of fat and like 11 plus 100 calories.
It's a pricey coffee in terms of
Well, I
caloric
mean,
value.
butter, thankfully, the time was relatively cheap, and I was able to get the coconut oil off of Amazon by the gallon.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I was getting it like 17 bucks a gallon, where now it's like 50 bucks a gallon. So it would be something that I definitely couldn't do now. But at the time, I mean, luckily enough, I fell into that, and I think that helped me with satiety too, and being able to fight off things. And I talked about this on the Cole's live stream last night or 2 nights ago. We got together Thursday night um, about being able to inadvertently cheat code my way through like food addiction and the keto in the beginning by having such a ludicrous amount of fat. Like,
Yeah.
if I was like, today, folks, I had 165 grams of fat in my coffee, people would think I was nuts. But in 2016 times, and me being over 400 pounds, I wasn't listening to anybody because in my brain, I'd already heard bulletproof coffee, fat in your coffee, got to get your fat in, got to get your fat in. And I'm like, deal. And I think it helped me. But, you know,
I mean,
I couldn't do
even
that now. It doesn't taste the same now.
yeah. Well, the financial side of it aside, just the mentality behind keto has changed so much in like
Oh,
the 9
100%.
years that I've been aware of it. And I first got aware of it because of Reddit. I saw like progress pics. That subreddit was like one that I would go to a lot because I was like, these people are all losing weight and I'm not. I want to be like them. And then I would look through the comments, and every single success story would have that first top comment, how did you do it? And then I would see the word keto thrown around a lot. And I'd be like, okay, this keto thing, like, of course, another fad diet. What's it about? And then I went to that subreddit and started learning more and more about it. And I was like, this actually makes a lot of sense as far as like my life and the foods that I enjoy. Because, like, even though I don't love sugary sweets and stuff like that, like, I do enjoy them to some extent. My biggest thing was like pasta. Very cheap food, very easy to get. You can eat a lot of it and have that full feeling longer in some aspects because you're also eating it with like a ton of meat because I would do like the meat sauce like type stuff. And so I would eat a lot of pasta and a lot of rice dishes and stuff like that because those were like the big things in our house back then. And I was like, what if I just didn't do that anymore? So that first time around, I was like, okay, I'm going to learn all the tips and tricks and do all this stuff. And I made like chia seed pudding and made the little egg cup things for breakfast. And I need to start doing that type of stuff again because it was kind of like a meal prep without an actual meal prep involved. Just because it happened to have like so many cups, you have leftovers. Um, but like that type of stuff. And then I started doing the channel because I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well have like a YouTube channel to go with it because I can like document my progress because I know if I do lose weight, I'm going to want to see where I was to see where I am. And that did help get back into it too because I had like that whole history and I could go back and look at myself at the very start of it. And then each time I failed, I had those videos too. And I could see like, okay, I know where my head was at whenever I was doing this, and I felt like crap. And then like the divorce, I made a video about that like the day it happened, and I was just like, I watched that, and I was just like, man, that guy's lost. Like he has no idea what to do about anything. He has no idea where his life's going. He has no idea how much worse it can get in some aspects, and he has no idea how much better it could be. So for anybody that hasn't made a YouTube channel or has documented their progress through video, even if it's just for themselves on their own phone, keep it secret, keep it safe, just like the One Ring, that feels like the best way to do it. Because then you can go back and see yourself. It's like your own kind of personal diary, whether it's public or private. Talk to yourself because that's what I do in my videos at this point. I don't make a lot of cooking videos. I don't do a lot of advice for other people. I just spend all that time talking to myself. Kinda. I talk to other people, like I talk to you, for example, but I'm mainly just talking to myself because I know in the future I can go back to that video and be like, all right, past me, what were you trying to tell me back then? Because obviously I wasn't listening. So that would be my advice to people. Make videos. Do something to keep yourself accountable to yourself from the past.
And you can even upload them to YouTube and make them private. So it doesn't even
Yeah.
have to be public. You could just have like a storage space for all your videos.
Yep, YouTube's free for now. So, you can use their servers to hold all those gigs and gigs and gigs of content. You don't even have to keep it on your phone. You can just throw it on there, keep it private, keep it secret, keep it safe. Um, and then just go back and watch yourself. Like 6 months down the road, go back and watch your first video and see like where you were at that point versus where you are now. Are you better? Are you worse? What did you do to get to where you are? You have that documentation, you have the receipts to go back and be like, all right, this is the moment where I was in this mindset and this is why I failed. Let's keep going forward, keeping that in mind. Because, like, for me, all those past times and like 2 years of total success, didn't fail once. And then, like I said, I did that whole Seattle trip, and that's where I failed. I know if I go on vacation and go do all these things, I'm going to have to be more mindful about the fact that, like, I can't do what I did last time. Like, if I go, let's say, to Indianapolis and hang out and do all this stuff, and, if you were not on keto and were like, oh, let's go to this pizza place that I love so much, I'd be like, I like pizza, but we should probably hit up something else. Like, you got any
I
steakhouses
would
that
take
you
you to a
like?
pizza place, but they serve keto pizza.
That's a good thing to keep in mind too. Our pizza place, they stopped selling the Blaze keto pizza crust, and that takes them out of the possibility of foods that I can eat now. So I mean that sucks, but
We also have a not keto pizza place that's like legitimately stuck in the 90s. It's a place called, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, it's called Noble Romans. Because I
I
don't know.
think
I
I've
don't. I
heard
know it was like
of it.
regional. I just don't know
Yeah,
how far their tentacles went.
right.
But they like we've picked up pizza in the last couple of years there a few times, and we'll walk. I walk in and they've still got the same video games. They've got the same window. You can watch them make the pizzas. You walk in, like all the furniture is the same, all the signage is the same. Of when I was like in high school, we would go there, and it's exact. I mean, I was in high school in the 90s. So like I walk in and it's like nostalgia hits you in the face with a sledgehammer. Like, whoa. So ever like we've gone there just to pick up pizza just so I can look at it again.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just one of those things we'll do every once in a while. But yeah, I don't know what I would do if there's a place called Rockstar Pizza here,
Mm.
a few minutes from me. And I've taken plenty of people there. I've had people from Canada go there with me, people from Ohio, people from Kentucky have come in town to go there and eat. Um, their pizza is good, though I wish they would make their pizza crust out of their breadstick crust. Because if you their breadsticks, like if you put pizza toppings on their breadsticks, it tastes almost like a Totino's party pizza.
I mean, that's not something that a lot of people would shoot for as what they would like to
I
have,
know, but
but
I'm a recovering fat guy, and I love those things.
oh,
I
I
would
get
make them
it.
and stack them on top of each other.
Oh yeah, make a double stack. Hit it the
Mhm.
middle with some Frank's Red Hot to give it a little bit more flavor, and just eat it like a big square sandwich.
Yeah. John Gugahan says he's like, "You're back on," and he said, "Hello, Adam. Nice to virtually meet you."
Hey, John, nice to meet you too. Hopefully you're enjoying yourself. We're just kind of talking about
And
life,
Joss
the
Wolfson is already
universe.
gone, but he said he did cheat. He got the gastric sleeve procedure done, so he's limited to the amount of food that he can eat, but he tries to keep keto as possible. And he said he had to run. But so one of the things that you talked about on one of your more recent videos, like in the last couple of weeks, you talked about kind of that journey down the like weight loss surgery path and how it
Hmm.
didn't quite work out, which probably hindsight being 2020 was probably for the best.
It is probably the better route for me, at least. I did go through that whole process. I went to the initial visitation thing where you have your consult and they tell you about the different types of surgeries that they offer. The doctor that I spoke with suggested that the sleeve be the best option. They have their whole system down to a T. Like they tell you all the things you want to hear. You're gonna lose like 70% of your excess body weight within the first year. And then they do make you aware of the downsides. There are a significant amount of them. But I don't think they sell it quite enough as far as the downsides go. Because I look at my friends and some family members who have had this surgery, 5, 10 years down the line, and a lot of them have either gained most of the weight back or they have a whole lot of other health problems that they wouldn't have had they not done the surgery. But at the same time, that's a situation that is a personal decision and personal gamble almost, because you're taking a chance that having this surgery and being successful with it and the side effects that come along with it are not worse than the side effects of continuing to be fat and continuing to be unhealthy and just living life the way that you currently are at that time, whatever that might be. So you are kind of rolling the dice on it as far as that goes. And I rolled the dice and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go through with the surgery. So I went through, did 5 out of the 6 months of weigh-ins, did the dieting thing. Every month they want you to weigh less than you did the month before because that's one of the requirements. You got to prove to them that you're capable of losing weight. And I'm like, I'm capable of losing weight. I mean, that part's the easy part, or at least the showing that you can for 6 months. Um, the keeping it off is a little bit harder. But then they also want you to have like the psychological visit to make sure that you're, capable of doing it. I had the first surgery that I've ever had in my life, which was a scope where the doctor would go in and send a camera down your throat, look at your stomach, and make sure that it's like stable and capable of handling the surgery and whatnot. That was one of the things that we did in like the first 2 weeks of going through that whole process. And that's whenever he was like, "Yeah, you're good to go. You also have a hiatal hernia, which means that the stomach has like a bubble almost. Like there's a top stomach and then like a squish and then the rest of your stomach. Basically, that's like the layman's terms for it. But like so, the food that I eat will go through this top part of the stomach and then get caught in like the middle, and then it causes like burp up to happen and stuff like that. And I always thought that was just normal and stuff that everybody had to deal with, but like turns out not as common. So he was like, "Yeah, I can fix that while we're in there, and we'll, chop off part of the stomach, zip it up, and then you'll be good to go as long as you follow the diet plan and do everything that you're supposed to do for the rest of your life." Um, so that is the thing that everybody has to think about is like this is not it's a tool, but this is the rest of your life, whether you like it or not, kind of situation. Like, there's no takesy backsies on it, like there would be with like, oh, I tried Atkins and I didn't like it, or I tried calorie counting and it didn't work out for me. It's like, oh, I chopped off part of my stomach, that didn't work out for me. Oh, well, tough, because now you got to live with the decision forever. Um, and I'm very uncommittal. Like my personality is very uncommittal to things. As much as I would like to be able to sit down and say like I will do this, I my brain just doesn't work like that. It's hard to sit there and be like I am committed to life for this one thing, especially after getting divorced. Now I'm just like nothing's permanent. Everything is in the wind. Life is nothing but a temporary string of events. I cannot commit to anything ever. So, I know that I am committed to keto. Keto is my partner, but like I also know like There's gonna be days where me and keto aren't so happy with each other. I might not be very happy with the way keto's been treating me lately, or whatever. And then that might be that point where I'm like, okay, maybe I need to look at the more carnivore side, or maybe I need to look at the more Mediterranean diet side, or whatever, to kind of shift things up. And as long as it stays successful, that's basically the key, as far as that goes. But yeah, the surgical side, I made it through the first 5 months, and then I caught COVID. So I had the cough and all this stuff. I had to miss one of the weigh-ins, which automatically disqualified me to begin with. But the doctor was also like, you have this ongoing cough that hasn't gone away because of this. We don't want your stomach to rip open and have like all the contents that are in you be everywhere in you because of this event, because there's you could die. So
Yeah, that
it's
sounds
like,
unpleasant.
yeah, suddenly having all of your stomach acid wash the rest of your insides, not pleasant at all. So I was just like, maybe this is not the way to go, because the whole process would have started over. I would have had to go through all the 6 months all over again. I would have had to have that stomach surgery thing that they did, the camera, and go through all of that process again. And I was sitting there thinking, like, well, 6 months is a long time. It's not a long time, but it is. And like 6 months from now, I could get COVID again. Like, I could have this surgery and then the week after get COVID. Like, I could, deal with this and then not be fully healed, and then get some sort of other illness that makes me blow my own stomach up from, you know, whatever. So it's like, at that point, to me, it's not worth it to even risk it at all, because the whole point is like, I want to live. Like, I want to enjoy life, and I'm not going to be able to enjoy life if my stomach is eating me from the inside. So at that point, I was just like, this isn't worth it. It's worth it to a lot of people, and everybody that's seeing success with it and don't have those side effects, great. To me, I can't risk it at this point. I would rather live the rest of what time I have left fat than skinny, but having all of those weird complications and side effects that can come with that. Um, it's the same thing with like the Ozempic stuff too. There's all these new meds that are coming out. There's not nearly as much testing on them as you would hope, and everybody becomes like a human guinea pig by trying it. And it's shown success. A lot of people are losing weight with it. A lot of people are having those successes, but at the same time, a lot of people are also having pancreatitis, and a lot of people are having gastroparesis. It's where your stomach stops working altogether, and then you have to get a colostomy bag because like your stuff doesn't work anymore. It's like, do you want to live your life and be skinny with a colostomy bag, or do you want to try and keep trying, and even if you fail, you're still trying the other way? Because I know, at least the way I am now, I can fix this somehow, or at least I can live with it until I can't. Whereas if I try this very experimental thing and it doesn't work out, then I'm stuck, and I don't want to be stuck.
And one of the side effects I'm seeing with that treatment is the weight loss isn't necessarily fat loss. It's
Mm.
it's lean body mass loss, which is terrifying because they're putting older people on it, and older people already have issues with their lean body mass, their muscle mass, and so basically they're just making them weaker.
And they're putting everybody on it, man. Like,
Mm.
every doctor is at least using it as an option, and it's so expensive. Like, I won't lie. Like, I've had the option to do it. I still have some in my fridge because the doctor gave me like one of those trial bottles or whatever. I was just like, I I have it as a kill switch or not like a kill switch, but like it's a backup in my back pocket if I ever decide that I want to do it. But the cost of it and the side effects that come with it just doesn't seem like it would be worth it to me. You know,
Yeah.
and especially now, like I saw an article yesterday because I work in the news now, so I get like all the coverage on in my email and stuff. I saw an article from, I think it was Associated Press yesterday, that was talking about how now there's a big surgence in fake Ozempic being thrown out into the world, like fake Wegovy, like fake meds in general, in the real containers. So, like, you could go to a pharmacy in your own hometown and get what you think is the real thing, and then it turns out that it's not.
How does
So,
that even happen?
I didn't read into the article all the way, so I couldn't comment on like the hows and whatnot, but probably it comes from just manufacturing and stuff like that. Because you know, even the ADHD medicine here lately, there's been a lot of stuff, anecdotally, of course, where it's not working the same for a lot of people. So they'll get those meds, and for some reason, they're not the same as they were prior to COVID and prior to, you know, all the manufacturing issues that they've had lately. So it could be like the manufacturer of Ozempic or whatever is, you know, still making it, but not as strong as it was, or you know, it's it's kind of like how Subway makes their 12-inch sandwiches, but they're actually 10. You know, that kind of thing, maybe
Yeah.
to where it's like it is Ozempic, but it's like 5% Ozempic and 95% water, or you know,
Well, like I
whatever.
saw like a meme about that, like about Subway the other day, like the company that made everybody think that eating a whole loaf of bread was good for you.
Yep. I fell for that. I mean, that whole diet campaign and stuff was in high school for me. So like Jared, the child molester
Hmm.
dude, he was like the big, you know, person to look up to back in high school, because it was like, oh, this guy lost all this weight from eating sandwiches. Like, I love sandwiches. I could do this. And we had a Subway like right down the road from the school. So like after school before marching band, I'd run the Subway and get my 6-inch tuna sandwich or whatever, and then run back and you know do 3 hours of marching. And I lost weight. And I was like, oh man, this Subway thing really works out. Turns out it was just the fact that I was marching band stuff for like 3 hours a day. I was doing exercise and moving, and that was like my job essentially throughout, you know, 4 months out of the year. And then, of course, once marching season was over, I'd go back to the whole like, oh, well, marching season's over. I can sit and watch, you know, Adult Swim for the next, you know, 6 to 8 months before marching season kicks back in again.
Yeah, that
And
was the
then,
funny thing is I back in like 2010, I got to this kick where I was going to the gym every day. I was going
yeah,
Monday through Friday to the gym. I would get there at like 6 and I would be there. I would lift weights, do cardio. I would get in the sauna. I would get in the pool every day, 5 days a week. Did this for like 6 months. And some days on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would go back after I got off work and go back to the gym for more cardio and then get in the sauna again and sit in the, and then I wouldn't always get in the pool, but depending if the, I mean, it was like a 3-lane pool. So if there were people in the pool, but I wasn't swimming laps, I was stretching and because it's when you're a big person, stretching outside of the pool is difficult. It's easier in the pool. You can move and you don't fall over and hurt yourself.
yeah.
And I was doing that, but in the mornings I was leaving. And at first we were going out. For the beginning, I was still smoking too. So I was a smoker. So I'd get out of the gym, light up a cigarette, and then we
The
would go
healthiest
over
thing you
to,
can do right after
yeah,
getting in the gym.
yeah. So then I would go over to, there was a couple of fast food options were near the gym and whatever. We'd go and we'd get breakfast sandwiches from, Burger King. They had like at the time, like they were like $1 a piece or something like that,
Mm.
or something crazy like two for 222 or whatever it was, right? And I found out that they're like 400 calories each, and I was like, oh, no, because then I'd be like, because you were looking at like the elliptical, and you're doing the elliptical, and you see your like in 45 minutes you burn like 100 calories, and you're like, man,
Like, that's
like the
it?
whole that's whole like the calorie thing to me is just so weird. But
Mhm.
and then I was like, okay, I'll be healthy. I'll go across the street to Subway and get myself a breakfast flatbread with egg whites and just a little bit of cheese, and that'll be my breakfast. And then I would get a chicken breast sandwich with a little bit of cheese and the veggies and stuff on it and be healthy. But I would eat my breakfast like on the way to work. And when I would get to work, I would be so hungry that I would basically eat that full foot long sandwich like not even an hour after getting to work.
Yeah.
So, and I was like, I mean, in 6 months, I was going to the gym that much and I lost like 30 pounds. So that was not enough in my brain. So I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. That's too much to only lose 30
Yeah.
pounds.
But your brain also wasn't registering probably all the other good things that came from it, like being stronger, being able to be more flexible, like all
Yeah. And
those
and
things
I
that
quit
don't.
smoking in the middle of that. So
Yeah. It's like for a lot of people that are trying to lose weight, myself included, it becomes one of those things where your focus is very narrow. You want to see that scale go down, you want to lose weight, you want to hit a certain magic number that's going to solve all your problems. But realistically, that can't be your why, because eventually, even if everything works out and you hit that magic number, then you don't have that why anymore because you've accomplished it. So then your why is going to change regardless. So then your why might become like, I want to stay at this, maintenance weight, and then figure that out. But for me, my why has basically shifted from strictly a number on a scale to I want to be more healthy. I want to be smaller. But if I'm big and healthy, then I'm fine with that. Like, I can live with being the big guy while also being significantly healthier than I was at 481 pounds. Because that's the highest I ever got, because I was smart enough to be like, I'm never gonna hit 500. At 500, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but it's not gonna be something that I can talk about on YouTube. Because that mentality was like, I can't live with that. Like, I can't live with being 500. So I got to 481 and I weighed myself one day and I was like, oh, I'm almost at this danger number. Like, I don't want to do that. So let's go the opposite direction, or at the very least, let's keep it from that. So then the why became like, I don't want to be at a point where I'm on like the 600-pound life show, and I don't want to not have a life. So lose that weight. And now, those whys, there's also the why of like, I want to eventually find a partner again. And I don't, I'm not actively necessarily looking for a partner or anything like that, but like, I want to be healthy for whoever does come along. And the world of dating is shit, for lack of better words. It's changed a lot from whenever I was growing up, because it used to be you meet people organically, you have conversations, you figure out the things that you like with them, and then sooner or later you hit that point. You're just in a relationship and things are just magical. But nowadays everything's on an app and it's all algorithms, and people look at your face or your body or both and they go, nope, don't like that person, gonna flick left, or whatever. So you don't even get the chance to show them that you might be funny, or you might be very knowledgeable on things that they're interested in, or whatever. You don't even get that opportunity. So in that aspect, you want to be visually appealing, I guess. It's vain, but you have to be better than you are, or at least I do. I feel like, because otherwise you don't meet people in real life anymore. It's just not how it works.
that's what I tell Shander all the time. I'm like, if something were to happen to her or we weren't together anymore, I was like, as They'd be like, I drive by these, like, like any town you live in, anywhere you live, you always see like those like one bedroom little apartments and they look kind of sad. And you're like, that's where I'm gonna live. I'm gonna live by myself. I'm just gonna be like, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm like, that's just gonna be me. I'm gonna be living like a one bedroom, one little thing. I'm like, just be that guy, just living out in this little place. And I'm like, have a couch and a TV and my YouTube setup, and I'll be fine. I'm not dealing with any of this anymore because it took so long to meet Chandra to find somebody. I mean, we've been together now since 2011, so over 12 years, which
Mhm.
is insane. Like before her, like my longest relationship was like a
Yeah.
year
I
and a half tops.
I've had uh at least one relationship, full on relationship since Megan. Didn't work out. And after that one, I'm just like, man, like it's hard to meet people. It's hard to find the right person. So I'm just gonna not worry about it so much. But I also have to keep in mind that like if I ever do want to go back into the world of dating and do all this stuff, like I'm gonna have to step it up. Like I'm gonna have to be somebody that I like better before somebody else is gonna like me, if that makes sense. So it's like, you create in your mind this picturesque version of yourself, and it's like, well, here are my, strong qualities. This is what I could be better at. And then you've got to decide whether it's worth it to make those changes. Because I know, like, being physically fit would be a potential why, as far as like, oh, people like people who go out and do stuff. And like, all I do is go to work and come home and sit in this house until the moment I go back to work. Like, people don't want that. Like, they want somebody who's like, I'm going to go hiking because everybody hikes apparently according to Tinder. Every single person on the planet hikes. So I'm like, well, I guess I like hiking now. Which I mean, I do. I've gone hiking. It's fine. Being a bigger dude, it's not something that you probably enjoy as much as other people. It's like my hike is like a mile, whereas a hike for like a regular hiker might be like 5 or 10 miles. And I look at that and I'm like, oh hell no,
Well, it also
absolutely
depends
not.
too, like what scenery. Like I live in Indiana and there's nothing really pretty here. I mean, okay, granted, I live like a mile from like we have a like one of the only in city limit state parks,
Mm,
and I can go hiking there, but like it's flat. But like when we go to Colorado, I hike through the mountains. We'll go up and we'll hike through like the Garden of the Gods and things
mm.
like that because or we'll hike all the way around like Bear Lake, or we go to like different places. Like that way I would say I would be more likely to be an outdoorsy person than just living in boring, plain, old, flat Indiana.
Yeah. I mean, Kentucky has things. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so I'm used to the outdoor side of things. We have Mammoth Cave, like 30 minutes down the road, so like I could always go do that. But I think the hardest part is the actively getting there. It's the same deal with the gym. Like I love going or being at the gym. Going to the gym is the hard part. Um, because like once I'm actually there and once I'm actually doing stuff, like I can knock it out and I'm, feeling good about myself afterwards. Like I feel like I've accomplished something, but that brain choice of like physically getting, the clothes on to go to the gym, then the act of grabbing my keys and opening the door and then walking out of the door and closing it and locking
Packing
it.
that bag to take with you to change and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those ADHD things. Yeah, I'm sure non-ADHD people deal with it too, but like I've asked people that go to the gym and I'm like, "All right, so how do you get yourself to the gym?" And they say, "Well, I just decide I'm going to the gym and then I go." And I'm like, "Okay, so that's all you do." Like, you don't think about every little piece that it takes to get there. Like, you don't think about the fact that you gotta find your workout clothes, you gotta find your keys, you gotta, fill your bag with a change of clothes. Like, grab your deodorant that you keep on, your shelf because otherwise you're gonna forget that. You don't think about any of that stuff. You just say to yourself, I'm going to the gym. And then you just do it. And they're like, I mean, yeah, basically. And I'm like, how?
Are
how
you
is that
familiar with
the
David Goggins?
never heard of him?
Okay, so David Goggins is this guy. He was 300 pounds, and
Mm,
he decided he was going to run. He wanted to run this marathon, this ultra marathon. And the guy that was running the ultra marathon said, "Okay, well, you got to do this qualifying run, and it's 100 miles in 24 hours." And so he goes and does it, and but it's not good for him the way he did it. Like when you come home from that run and you've gone on yourself, and like when you do go to the bathroom, it's like what's coming out looks like Coke.
mm,
That's bad, right? But so he's gone and done all these ultra marathons. He became a Navy SEAL, which right in of itself is a difficult thing. And he says, he gets up and he's very vocal, loud, very in your face, a lot of cuss words and all that stuff. So that, and he's like, I'll get up and I'll stare at my shoes for 20 minutes before I put them on. But I put them on. And it's like,
yeah.
and then there's people like Jocko Wilnick. He's another special forces guy. And he's like, every day on Instagram, he posts a picture of his watch at 4:30 a.m., give or take. He gets up and gets out of Saturday, Sunday, doesn't matter. You get up and you make it happen. And that's one of those things like, I mean, that's not everybody's built like that, but I think we can all take something away. Even like, and a lot of people may not like Jordan Peterson, but that thing you said about when you're trying to like yourself, because Jordan Peterson says something, he's like, you got to clean your room. You got to clean your room every day. You got to make sure, and that's a legitimate thing. You should have a clean room, which I don't. I mean, whatever. But but then there's the personal aspect of it where you got to handle all your business every day. You can't let things just build up and build up and build up because then you're never going to take care of them. We do that with our bodies. We do that with our responsibilities. Some of us do it with bills. You know what I mean? Whatever the case is, just being accountable and having the the drive, whether it's manufactured or built in, to handle that or to clean your room or whatever is such an important thing. Like, every day getting up and eating keto is part of that. Every
Mm,
day getting up and going to work is part of that. Getting up and doing YouTube is part of that. Getting up and being a good spouse is part of that. Getting up and, you know, go to the grocery store, go, whatever it is you need to do is all part of that. Just those daily responsibilities that we have to take care of. And I think so much our health just takes a back seat to all those others because you can't let your bills go because then they turn your lights off or they kick you out of your house or they take your car away, turn your water off, whatever the case is, right? Or
mhm.
you got to be a good spouse, so you're looking for another spouse, and that's hard. Nobody wants to do that. If you find a good one, you got to take care of them and be good spouse to them. It's a partnership. But then our bodies take a back seat because it doesn't seem to be important.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So,
not important until it is. I mean, that's the way it is with just about everything. You don't think about your health as you're growing up because you're like, I'm invincible, I'm a teenager, it's not a big
mhm,
deal. And then suddenly you reach your 30s, your 40s, and then you have like your first heart attack or whatever the case may be. I mean, that's an extreme example,
right,
but you have some sort of event in your life and you're like, oh, I am not immortal. Like, I am going to die eventually. And I would rather push that bucket as far down the road as I possibly can, uh, even though I've already done the damage, and even though that bucket is closer than it would have been if I had taken care of myself, from the get go. Uh, I don't think most people actively want to go, as it were. Like, we have an inherent biological need to survive. Um, Granted, people decide that they're not going to do that. And, that thought has been there before for myself as well as a lot of other people that I know. But at the same time, I don't want to. I'm not gonna. But we also have this whole situation where we, I want to say inactively, but we actively sabotage ourselves all the time because growing up, even though I was depressed and, I deal with those problems and whatnot, like, since the answer was food, that's also a way to self sabotage because, like, subconsciously, if I eat all this food, then I'm going to go happy, whatever, I'm going to at least go the way I chose to go. And I got to do whatever I wanted while I went, or, whatever. But you reach the point where you're older and you're like, oh man, I made a lot of mistakes. I should not have eaten all that food. So now the your your body is paying for the check that your teenage self wrote all those years ago or whatever. Um, so now it's like, okay, I'm about to be 35. Um, Assuming that I get myself in check, I might live till I'm 65, 70, maybe. So I think about that and I'm like, well, I'm halfway through my life on the best situation possible. So do I want to spend the next half of my life progressively degrading and becoming physically incapable and doing all the down slope things, or do I want to make myself better than I was in the first half so I can at least live that last half the best way that I possibly can, like, not bedridden and not having heart attacks like every few months until eventually the one gets me, or whatever. um, it's a lot to think about and it's a lot to process, and I think for a lot of people it's something that makes them anxious. I know for me it does because I sit there and think, well, I could also die tomorrow. Somebody could hit me with a car or something. But that's out of my control. What I eat and what I do to maintain my own body, that is ultimately my call. I've got to make the choice to eat better or go to the gym and work out. And if I don't, like, I've got nobody to answer to except myself.
Yeah. And it comes down to, do you love yourself enough to not want to feel like trash every day?
Right. It's like, do you love yourself enough to give yourself what you need, or do you love yourself enough to give yourself what you want? Because if I
Yeah.
love myself enough to give me what I want, then after we get off the call, I would go to, like, get some Indian food and maybe some Krispy Kreme if that light's on, or whatever. Because that would be me loving myself enough to give me what I want, um, in the immediate, short term. But giving me what I need would be, going to the grocery store and picking up the right food items and taking care of myself.
Yeah. Because one
So,
thing I asked on multiple platforms, I asked, what does self care look like for you?
yeah, and that's something that I still don't really know what self care looks like to me, because in terms of taking care of myself, what it should mean is going to the gym and eating the right food and doing the things that I know is going to be best for me. But also, self care is mentally not dealing with all the day to day life stuff, because life is stressful, work is stressful, dealing with the bills and the the economy and the government and like all this outside stuff is like makes you want to shell up and not deal with any of that. And in some ways that's self-care. Just ignore all of that and just be like, no, I'm going to focus on me and I'm going to watch some YouTube videos and not think about any of this. um, so you got to figure out what that self-care actually means to you, because it can mean two things, but one of those things is more self-sabotage self-care than the other, without you even realizing it.
Because that's kind of that's the catalyst for me asking that question to everybody was my idea of what it was, what it appears to be, and what I hear a lot of people say when they talk about self care. It's self care. It's self care. Is stopping at Starbucks and getting a Starbucks milkshake, or you know g- getting that ice cream or getting those donuts. It's self care. It's I got to take care of myself. But when I
Mm,
asked it, most of the answers that I got were, reading a book by myself, taking a long bath, um, going on walks, little things like that. And I kind of want to know, like, I want to know how much of a disconnect is there between reality and what I'm told and what's the reality, and are people being genuine with those answers? I'd like to believe that they are, but I'm also I al- I also kind of think the worst, not of people, but I understand myself, and I know that I am a person that has in the past been a sugar coater.
mm.
I'm going to tell you what sounds best versus what's reality. So I often expect that from others, regardless of you know.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to present themselves in the best way possible. I mean, you go on Facebook and stuff, you're only getting a small slice of that person's life, and usually it's the highlights. Somebody goes on Facebook, you go on mine even, you'll see like a picture of like me hanging out with a reindeer or Santa or whatever. It'd be like, "Oh yeah, I did this." But you don't see the fact that like when I went home, I sat on my couch and I watched YouTube for about 5 hours afterwards and then passed out and went to sleep. Like, people don't see that side of things. They just see the things that I want them to see. And it's the same way with everybody else. I mean, nobody's on Facebook posting like, "Yep, did the same thing I did every day today. I went home from work and then I sat and ate some food and went to bed," because it's boring. Nobody wants to hear that. They want to see your best life. Um, so it's very. I guess my point is like everything on the internet's a lie. Don't trust anything.
Well,
Like,
but I'd like to think that it's not. I think it's more not so much a lie, but I think it's more like because I see like Facebook is different from Twitter, is different from Instagram, is different from YouTube, where
mm,
like my YouTube or my Facebook, I do see a lot of negativity posts, but they're usually personally negativity, like this has gone wrong in my life and I can't believe this has happened. And I do see that. You see a lot of um the good stuff, like we did this and we went here and we had this fun and we went on vacation here. I mean, like if you were on my Facebook in October, it all looked great
mm.
because I was at Keto Palooza. We had a keto meetup. I went and saw Botch in Chicago, and then we went to Disney World. Like that was a big that like October was a month I was in like all kinds of different states, like, but I mean that's not the norm.
Right. Well, I think too the algorithms, the powers that be, show us what's going to elicit the most emotion.
Yeah.
So on Facebook, you're going to see like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And like, yeah, it's not like a lie, but it's definitely mechanically catered, if that makes sense. Like, it's not just seeing what those people are going through and what their lives are. It's a computer that's behind it saying like, we think you're going to care about this, so we're going to shove it in your face and you're going to eat it because that's what we want you to see. um And it comes down to that for a lot of different aspects of the internet in general. I mean, you have politics and stuff like that. You're going to have, certain sides throwing their sides of things at you, and you're going to see that and be forced to eat it, as it were, because like that's what you're being presented with. And yeah, a lot of the times the algorithms and stuff are going to show you what you want to see. So it's going to show you what you already believe. So like if you believe, and moving it away from politics because that's a dangerous territory to get into, if you believe in keto's all you're going to see. You're going to see the success stories, you're going to see all the different recipes. Like my Facebook page is filled with like suggested channels and random groups and stuff, because now that algorithm shows you all this suggested stuff. So I see all the keto stuff. Whereas, if I weren't doing keto or something like that, it might show me a lot more like McDonald's advertisements or something like that. Um, so it's to go back on the lie thing. Like I said, it's been much more manufactured than a lie specifically. So everybody has to realize like you got to branch out a little bit more than what your algorithm lets you see, and see all this other stuff, because there's more than one side to everything. Keto might not be for you. Maybe for you the calorie counting and all that stuff is your thing and it works. And if so, by all means, keep doing it. Do what works for you, because other like you're your best advocate. The only person you have to answer to is yourself whenever it comes down to it. Do what works.
And I think that's a good place to stop. We've been talking like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything you've got coming up you want to talk about?
Man, I got nothing. It's the new year. Like Christmas is a couple days away. We got the new year. I just started the new job. So I'm gonna be busy. I don't think I even did the weigh-in video this week, but I did make I weighed in with the camera and stuff, but I never followed through with the actual video. So I need to get back on that and jump on it. But to self plug, the Keto Couch Potato on YouTube. I make videos and stuff, and basically have these rambling type conversations, but generally just with myself. So, if you liked what you saw today, go check me out.
Definitely. That's what I want to do here. I want to have conversations, and I want to do it with as many different different keto people and not keto people. I want to have the carnivores on. Even if I could get vegans to come on and talk with them, people who will actually have a conversation and not just be kind of jerky or whatever.
Oh, I'm
But
sure you can find a spicy vegan to chat with. There,
yeah,
there's no
but I mean,
shortage.
legitimate conversations, something that can grow, that can be
Right.
of value. Um, I've got people coming on in the future because, like I said, if we didn't do this today, we would have had to do like on a different day because I'm booked all
Hmm.
the way through April.
Which is very
Um,
impressive. I'm proud of you, man. That's
I
quite the
appreciate
achievement.
that. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be a thing, and then it is, and that's where we are. Um, and I just want to talk to. I just want to talk to people and grow a community and show that there's so many people out there who are feeling like how I used to feel, hopeless, helpless, basically going to end up like my mom. That I know if I stick to just talking with keto people or just keto, I'm like, it's not going to be as effective of finding people who may need that help. So that's what I'm going to do. And I feel like I don't know everything. And I don't think that keto probably is the end all be all for everyone. Is a whole food diet a good place to start? Yeah, 100%. Like what Dr. Barry would call the proper human diet.
Right.
But, you know, that's why I just want to get down to the bottom of it and talk to as many people as I can. And I want to say, yeah, John says, as always, a great interview. I appreciate you, John. And I want to say I appreciate you, Adam, very much for being here with me and making it work and getting it done, even though we had our setbacks today. Because I'm not
Yeah.
one to just be like, you know what, I was like, man, I don't want to wait all the way to April to talk to you. So I've been looking forward to talking to you. I mean, because we just met
Yeah.
in
Absolutely.
person back in like August, and then we
Yeah.
hung out for a good while and for a couple of days in October, and then I imagine we'll probably get together sometime in 2024 again, if whether it's Keto Palooza or whatever. Or there's also the one coming. There's going to be the that brought me to Tennessee in the first place. That one's happening again, which is not all that far from you either. So,
Gotcha.
and then you get
Yeah,
that new
you're
bus opening.
yeah, your finger is definitely more on the pulse with a lot of the events and stuff. So you'll have to keep me posted on all that. But yeah, if I'm free, man, I'll do whatever. I just yeah, my body betrayed me this morning. So waking up that early on a weekend is has always been hard, but especially, if my phone is covered by a pillow.
Well, thanks again so much, and thank to everybody in the chat for stopping in for the second of my live streams today. This one was last minute, but you guys came through, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Until that, I will see you all tomorrow on my live stream. I will have Aaron and Christy on for a collaboration that's not normal for me, but I'll see you tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love all your faces. Bye.